Okay, folks, in this video let's talk about Cypress and Playwright. I will be speaking from QA automation point of view. So first of all, let's talk about Cypress. Here you can see on the official website, they basically stating that Cypress is not a general purpose automation tool. So it's just the community is QA community or development community is misusing it, trying to automate a lot of things from it with it. So first, the major drawback of Cypress is due to the same origin policy, you cannot open some websites from Cypress and automate end-to-end testing for them on fully integrated environment or in production, for example. It will be throwing exceptions, you can work around it, but then you will have another exceptions and so on and so on and so on. I tried to do that, spent 3 hours, then gave up. It's not the right tool for the job. So basically it means that the Cypress is not end-to-end testing tool, test automation tool. It's more like component and unit testing for local development purposes. Basically it's a tool for developers. Playwright doesn't have such limitations. Next one, Cypress supports only JavaScript. Playwright supports different programming languages. Cypress supports less browsers. Playwright supports Safari besides Chrome and Firefox. Cypress doesn't have default logger or HTML reporter out of the box, meaning that when you run your tests with Playwright, you will have HTML report in test results folder automatically generated and you don't have to do anything for it. With Cypress, first of all, about logger, you will not see, if you will put console.log statements in your Cypress test, you will not see them not in test results, not in terminal, not while running from CI/CD, but that's what I want to see, right? I want to see the log of my tests to track what's going on, besides having HTML reported in place. So Cypress by default doesn't do that. You can implement the Cypress, but again, you need to write additional code and configuration for that. But why would I want to do that? I want to see it right away. It's default capabilities. That's what I expect as a QA automation engineer. Each tool will be having this feature. It's not the case with Cypress, but again, it's possible to do that. But it will require additional work. The same for HTML reporter. Nothing will be produced for you by default by Cypress. You can also install additional npm packages or tools, libraries to have it HTML reporter, but again, why it's not embedded by default, included by default, I don't know. Next one. Out of the box, Cypress doesn't support XPath. You need to install additional package or plugin. Again, why not to include this capability in the tool by default? Next one, Cypress is heavily promise based, so in order to use it, you should first learn and understand how JavaScript promises work. It's not an easiest topic, and you will have nested then statements hell. What I mean is that, for example, here see it's a lot of chain. This is Cypress tests examples. We will have .shoot, .end, so all of these are, and all of these methods return promises. So you cannot simply return value from promise, you need to wrap it in order to reuse it later in the test or something. So I was having a lot of headache with it. In Playwright, it's much simpler and much easier to organize your code and to provide test results faster and write your tests faster. Basically, that's the goal. Now, next one. There is no independent async assertions out of the box. You cannot put expect on separate line outside of the promise. It's inconvenient. So this one is related to previous one. Basically, in Playwright, you can say something like this: do something on the previous line, then put separate on separate line dedicated expect to assert something. It's either with await, asynchronous or synchronous. It will work with Playwright, with Cypress. It will take a lot of, so basically it will be throwing exceptions if you want not to use this nested should statements but want to assert something on a separate line. It will not work. I tried that. It will throw exception, and again we will spend more time trying to solve issues like that or work around them rather than just automating tests and testing the software. Next one. Cypress doesn't search elements in Shadow DOM by default. It's possible you need to use commands to switch many times back and forth like in Selenium. Again, it's doable. Doesn't mean that it cannot work with Shadow DOM, it can. But in Playwright, there is no such issue. Playwright trying to search elements in Shadow DOMs by default without calling any additional chain of commands. So it's more convenient to work with Shadow DOM if needed on the Playwright. Next one. Poor community support from developer side for Cypress. Bugs are not fixed for years. New features that community is asking to add never implemented. This I investigated by myself when I tried to automate some demo test cases for these websites. Basically, I spent a few hours trying to find implementation for force visit command and then some other issues. And basically, this issue is known again due to its same origin policy. Cypress development team doesn't want to fix it or implement it because that's how they look at things. But a lot of QA engineers, a lot of people is asking why does it happen, why it cannot just simply open the website. Developers team doesn't care, doesn't make it more convenient for the community. Next one, API tests in Cypress are a few times slower than in Playwright. There are a lot of videos about that on YouTube. If you don't believe me, go and check it or just measure it by yourself. Next one, no convenient Visual Studio Code plugin. With this, I mean for Playwright, for example, you can install Playwright test for VS Code extension. And then you will have this testing tab where you can see the list of your tests, run them one by one or the full spec file. You can filter them by failed and then run only failed. There is no such thing for Cypress. So again, it's about convenience. It's convenient to operate, and the only way to run only one test, it's by adding .only. I guess it's child limitation, but anyway, this is what it is. Next, few more. So Cypress cannot run tests on Selenium Grid. If you, for example, switching from Selenium and Selenium Grid, or you have some previous infrastructure ready in Playwright, it's really easy to do. Just redirect your test to Selenium Grid. You don't even need to add anything in the code. You just need to add your Selenium Hub URL to your command in command line. There is no such thing in for Cypress. So again, why not to implement this feature? A lot of people are still using Selenium for test automation, and it will make much easier for them to switch from Selenium to Cypress if that would be implemented. Just implement some adapter or to retranslate all the commands to Selenium Grid. I don't know. Anyway, this feature is implemented in Playwright, not in Cypress, because Cypress has its own infrastructure, and they to run tests, record them, and so on, and they are selling it as a separate feature. I guess that's the reason. But anyway, it doesn't serve the community well. Next one. I couldn't find a way to implement simple tests to go through pagination elements on the web page with Cypress. And this is about, for example, this kind of pagination elements. Here you can see each button or link with its own page number. There are 48 of them. So how I would usually implement it, I would put it in a loop by increasing counter, then search if there is a web element with such text, then I click on it. If there is no such element with this exact text, then it means basically that we reached the end of the paging, and I will collect all the element table cells in the loop and assert what I need, rank names, for example, or whatever, or to count number of lines to check that the paging itself works as designed. And you cannot, there is no simple way to do it in Cypress. I tried to do that. I spent like probably 5 hours and tried 10 different approaches. But again, it's also goes down to the way that Cypress is promise based, and you cannot, or at least I couldn't find a way to simply check if element is present or not. Here, for example, I can in Playwright, I can write function get number of elements and take the length of by passing locators, length of array of elements, return it, check if it's 0, it means that I reached the end of pagination. If not, I continue in the loop. In Cypress there is no such function as is element present. If it's not, you will get an exception, and I couldn't find a simple way to implement this function get number of elements or is element present in Cypress. Again, it was a lot of headache. Not sure why. It's simple method, again, due to its promise-based nature and developers-oriented nature, I guess. Next one, Cypress cannot drive two browsers at the same time. It cannot open more than one browser instance or tab in a test. So basically, you will not be able to click on link and check that it was open within the same browser or tab. Lack of CI hover command. Limited support for iframes. Cypress can work with iframes, but there are some limitations. No native or mobile event support. So overall, I tried a lot of different tools. I worked a lot with Selenium. I tried WebDriver.io. I tried Cypress. I tried Playwright and some other tools. So I'm speaking from experience of being in test automation for a long time and knowing how to approach test automation. Conclusion is the next one. Cypress is not a bad tool. Feel free to use it if you want it, or if you're forced to by the company. But and every tool has its own pros and cons. It's just a tool for developers, in my opinion, not for QA. What can I say about Playwright? It also has its cons, limitations, or glitches, but I haven't faced any major drawbacks like in Cypress using it. So if you general advice for you will be, if you have an ability to choose which tool to use, if you are starting something from scratch, or if you are doing tools evaluation, I would suggest or recommend you to go with Playwright. You will be much more happy with it and will be delivering test automation faster than with Cypress. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.